Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And today we're going to be taking a look at the new 4th anniversary Rimuru, the Pact-Bound Demon Lord. So he, on paper, looked interesting, and I think in practice is not as good as I was hoping. But he is space, physical, uses a claw, on Dragon Haki, Stern Spirit, ODL, Tempest Fleet, Dungeon Crawler, and Shizu's Will. He is a support alt for Dragon Haki, AoE, but he has the enhanced level where he's doing 50% bare minimum with no dupes and no battle clusters. And then if you do an EX alt, you get 100% extra weakness strike for Dragon Haki. His first skill gives crit and super crit rate for everyone. Now, super crit rate is a damage modifier, not a buff itself. It will just increase the damage that crits do and increase crit damage and crit resistance down effects. So we'll see that in practice. And then 20% alt resistance down is, a bitch of a number for a 90-point skill. I'm not happy with that part. His second skill is the combo edition, just like Emil's and Trishula have. This means that when you send one blue orb, you can get the power of 6 using all 3 of their skills. And then also has the orb gimmick for alt gate or alt orbs, so an alt will act like a blue orb when you use the skill as well. Traits, Valor trait, Seals Body and Spirit. His first trait is good, protection gauge by 4 every 2 turns, so the first dupe will be impactful for him. The second trait that he has is not as good, it's crit damage for himself. So you definitely, if you were to get a dupe at him, just one dupe would work. But let's go ahead and try him out. Alright, we're going to run him on this version of the Dragon Haki meta. We've got Veldora, Trishula, Emils, and Rimuru. And then we've got Shinsha and the Masked Hero, because Shinsha has crit damage, which we can see get enhanced, and then the hero has crit resistance down, which we will also see enhanced from the super crit buff. Alright, so turn 1, we can bring Emils in, and we can bring Rimuru in. We're really not going to use Rimuru all that much, quite honestly, until we get to the nuke turn, because his multi-skill buff is not doing as much as the other 2 characters are. Trishula is also converting an orb from the Dragon Haki into blues, and Emils is doing the future hand of blues. Rimuru is doing the orb gimmick on alts, which we don't have any alts right now, so it's really not that powerful. So this hand, we're going to have to convert. Oh no, that works out. Okay, cool. So we'll use the multi-skill again from Emils. And then the crit and super crit is a very interesting buff, because if you crit, then great. That is a 30% damage multiplier right there. But super crit will enhance that damage even more. So it's like another 20% or something. So your crits are doing like 1.5 damage. 1.5 times damage now, which is cool. Yeah. But let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. We can get a lot of Rimuru orbs. So it already just straight up enhances your crit damage. But the extra power comes when you have a character like the new Velzard or something who has a butt ton of crit damage and a butt ton of crit resistance down. But maybe you didn't pull that Velzard. You did your YOLO Koban multi and you pulled Rimuru, and that's about it. So you want to see how his buff actually works alongside other crit characters who are not as good, but still have some kind of value. So this is just typical stacking Veldora team. Okay, we gotta turn this off. And we're still not really going to use Emils here. I mean, we could, but we don't have an alt yet, so it really doesn't matter all that much. So let's just... Rimuru. So we'll just keep using this. I'm not going to use the rewind. I'm not really going to worry about anything else here. Let's do a double stack of Veldora. The power of Emils' second skill is really become apparent only on turn 6, specifically. Because turn 6, you only have 1 blue orb and 5 dragon souls. And before Rimuru came out, even using Trishula and Emils, you got a plus combo of 4, plus 1 blue, gave you 5 blue orbs. Not a full combo of 6, so you're not getting max protection gauge, you're not getting maximum skill points, and sometimes that could make you miss out on Veldora on turn 7, which would prevent you from getting your 6-hand send of dragon orbs, and that's really not what you want to do here. But now we have an alt, which is good. So if we use Veldora, we're going to convert the next one over. So let's now use the multi-combo for him, and then we'll also use Emils, because we've got the points. And now we can see that this blue orb, as an alt, is going to act like a normal blue orb and still give us max protection gauge and all that jazz, while still being a damage alt, or being a support alt. Didn't I turn this off? And we'll give Emils permanent weakness strikes. So we'll send 1 and 2. Boom. Only had to send 2, but Emils is getting a lot of orbs, so actually let's do 1 and then 2, because I want more Rimuru alts. So we could watch his alt come in, and it will give us extra damage throughout the fight, 50% extra weakness strike. If it was an EX alt, it'd be 100, but we don't have an EX alt for him. We will on the nuke turn, which will be good, but he is just launching a giant spirit bomb at you. So, what is it? Destruction Blast. That's a pretty generic name. Alright, not a lot of damage. He is not going to do a lot of damage, though. His role is not to do damage, it's to enable other people to do damage. So it's turn 5 now, after they're done hitting us. Okay. And then we will come into another full combo buff. We don't need to use all 3 of them yet, because that's only on turn 6, and we are 1 turn away from that. So, alright, convert that. We'll use the Emils again, and now we'll use Trishula since it's cheaper by 5 points, whatever. But once we convert with Veldora, we'll have 2 blue orbs plus the 4 combo. I thought I turned this off. Game. Oh my god. Alright, 1, 2. And now Emils has another support alt, so that's another 50% weakness strike for everyone on the, well, all the Dragon Haki units on the team. And we'll send it again. And then turn 6, this is where it comes in to be absolutely necessary, because Veldora is going to convert that 1 Trishula orb into a Dragon orb, and then we only have access to this 1 alt orb. But I want to send it, but I want it to act like a blue orb, because that's the point. I want maximum protection gauge, so I can get as many stacks of Veldora as possible, and I want as much skill points and alt gauge as possible. So here we have to use all 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. And we will also transform with the mill so we can start stacking with his buff. So +2, and then +2. So now this 1 alt orb is acting like a blue, and also acting like 6 blue orbs. And then we'll get a stack. Boom. Alright, so 105, 110, 120, 150, 200%. So let's do another stack of Veldora just for additional attack. And then sending this 1 is going to give us a whole protection gauge and then some, and 308 skill points. A little bit more because I've got the skill point on Blue Charm. Normally it would give you 293 skill points. But here we go. Let's send it again. 140 something K, 1000 damage. Another 50% weakness strike for the team. And because we've sent 6 orbs of him, essentially, he should have another ult. Yeah, but we're not going to send it because the Dragon Soul will convert his orb. So we don't need to do anything here except use a stack of alt damage with the Emils. And then we'll be on turn 8, and we'll be able to nuke. And whether or not we'll kill, I actually don't know if we will. But let's do this. Boom. And then Veldora, 1 final stack. And then we'll send all 6 Dragon Orbs. We'll be invincible, so Rimuru won't die here. 4, 5, and 6. No protection gauge here, but it's fine, because I probably actually don't want that. I guess we could have used the future convert for Emils for next turn, just to give us a full 6-hand send, but with the Emils transformed, more often than not, we're going to be able to send 6 orbs. Not here, but oh well. So, now we come to the turn where his other skill really matters. The crit and the super crit rate and the 20% all resistance down. So if we check Emils now, we're going to have increased super critical rate 100% and increased crit rate. Now, when we, I actually took a picture of this, but the description, not that. Where was the description of that skill? Oh, maybe I didn't take a picture of it. All right, whatever. It says that super crit is not affected by, it does not increase your chance to crit. It's just the chance to do a super crit if you happen to crit, which is very confusing. But just know that just because you have a 100% super crit rate, If you, for some reason, didn't have normal crit, you wouldn't actually crit. It's not a guaranteed normal chance to crit, which would then activate crit damage and crit resistance down. It is just an enhancement to existing crit modifiers. Very confusing way to look at it, but I promise you, if he did not also have guaranteed crits, you would not see anything. Unless you happen to hit like a 2% chance or something. I'm probably sure that they have another modifier in them. But let's do the crit resistance skill. And now, the hero crit resistance was 50%. But with the super crit rate increasing it, it's now 50% crit resistance down. Wait, hold on. Wait a second. Oh, maybe it was 40 and then it became 50 because we used enough points. Let's see, crit damage. Crit damage? Crit damage for... I feel like that is a mistake. It should enhance our damage, right? We have super crit on him. Super critical rate. Maybe it doesn't buff it here. It buffs it on the output over here. That seems a bit weird. Alright. Well, let's send Rimuru first, and then we'll send to Mills, and then we'll send these. I could have sworn that we got... No, that was Drago that was affecting it. Okay, so it's not a visible damage increase on the character. It is just when it's calculated, it will do more damage. Alright, so Rimuru, 5.6 million damage. A Mills, 78 million. Okay, sure. Kind of difficult to see where the super crit was actually coming into play, but you definitely saw it said super critical now, instead of just normal critical on that lasting damage numbers. So, yeah, I mean, he's kind of funny. I want to see if they have a super crit modifier now, or chance in their details. Not that. I want unique status. There we go. Crit damage, crit resistance, no. No, there's no super crit in here. Okay, here it is. Critical. If you get a critical while the super critical rate is increased, there is a certain chance of a super critical that does even more damage to enemies than a normal crit. The chance of getting a critical is not affected by the super critical rate. So there's the plain English right there. Just because you have super crit does not mean that you're just going to magically also crit. It will just enhance crit damage modifiers, which if you don't have it, and you don't have access to it, it doesn't mean shit. But thankfully he's doing crit and super crit. So that was him on the Dragon Haki team. Let's take him somewhere else that definitely uses crit as a normal damage modifier, and watch that damage increase. Okay, so we're going to go into Calamity Conquest just for fun, and we're going to use the New Year's Blessing team, which is a crit team and synergy, but we will see the difference between using Rimuru and the Shinsha, Milim, and Diablo buffs together on a normal ult, and then we'll add the super crit, and then we will see the damage increase on that level. So let me get to the nuke turn for this team. You don't have to watch the entire thing, and then we can start comparing. Okay, so we're on turn 5. We have 195 skill points. Rimuru is ready with his EX ult. So let's go ahead and use all the buffs. So we've got the crit resistance down 20%. He's not skill fused, so that's all we're going to get out of him. And then we'll take Diablo out for Rimuru, and then we'll use all 3 of the buffs. So the synergy and ult down, the attack and weakness strike, and then the crit and ult damage. And then we'll use Xion to guarantee our crit rate. And then we'll see how much damage Rimuru does on this nuke with just those buffs applied. Hopefully we don't hit Aegis like I did the first time, and that means I had to re-record this clip. Alright, let's see. What happens here? 3.7 million damage. Okay. That's fine. 3.7 million. So that is our baseline. So now, let's come back and let's add in the super crit modifier, and we'll see how much higher that 3.7 ends up going. Okay, back on turn 5. Now we have this crit and super crit already active on Rimuru in the back line. So let's redo all the different buffs. So we've got the crit down with Diablo, boom, and then we'll bring Rimuru in for Diablo, and then we can bring Milim in for the new Rimuru. We've already used his crit buff, so you can see the gold crit right here. Let's do this and that. So 3.7 million was the first nuke without super crit. So let's see how much higher that goes. 3.7, I'm thinking about 4.5 million. If it's higher, then great. If it's lower, then I'm going to be kind of disappointed. So let's see which side of the fence we're on. Shooting for 4.5, higher than 3.7, obviously, and we get 4.5. Okay, well, there you go. Okay, right on the money right there. So, yeah, it's going to enhance your damage by quite a bit, and obviously the more crit damage and more crit resistance down you can put on the enemies and yourself, the more impactful that upgrade from super crit is going to be. But remember, if a unit comes out in the future that only gives super crit, you still have to bring a character to do normal crits, otherwise it's not going to come into play. You're just not going to crit, and you're going to waste all that extra damage potential. So, this Rimuru, while like cool and gimmicky, and it's the first time we've had super crit, it's not what I would consider the best thing in the world, because that amount of damage, we could add Pierce or we could add Aegis, and we could get so much more than just super crit damage. So I think it's a secondary buff for crit, which is now shaping up to be probably the second worst buff in the game, behind Synergy and Aegis. They're just so much more impactful than crit. And Pierce, I think, is still the lowest, but yeah. I mean, they're old buffs. What do you expect? Every time they bring a new giant new buff in, like we got the Dark Plus and Wind Plus, all the physical magic attack damage buffs, these are all much, much higher output than some of those older things. So this Rimuru is just a walking gimmick again. The super crit, sure. Alt resistance down being only 20% means absolutely nothing. Like, it didn't do anything for us in that last fight, because we were already getting 50% alt resistance down from Milim. So this doesn't matter. And then the second skill being the combo edition, really only truly useful on his own team, or some like weird random one-off team where you just want to send 4 orbs for one person and have it act like 6 orbs for them. Like, you can do that, but it's not the reason why we're bringing Rimuru. So, especially if the stage nerfs crit. So, all in all, definitely a character. Just not a character that I think is going to have any lasting potential in the game. He is not Blanc. He is not the masked hero. He does not give that level of power to every single team in the game. He's just more crit. Okay, cool. But let me know what you guys think. Am I underselling this new Rimuru, or is he just as mid as I expected, or as I'm saying? I want to know your thoughts, especially because he's a 4th anniversary character. I'm betting most people will be disappointed, but I want to hear your own words, or read your own words in the comments. But that's it from me. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.